All right, so we're live on the air. I'm sorry, we're starting. Our multitude of fans are waiting.
Fix is in.
There's nobody waiting, but we're doing it anyways.
Right.
So, Craig, why don't you start off? Yeah, why don't you start off and talk about the movie that won the poll?
All right, so we are here for another installment of the 3 podcast hosts, 1 Sly Stallone movie. And this month, I am thrilled that we are doing the 2001 star-studded, cast-filled action, action adventure movie Driven. There's a lot to talk about this movie, so I don't want to take up too much time setting things up. But I'm Craig Cohen from the SlyCast, and we're a podcast that chronologically is going through the career of Sylvester Stallone, and we're taking our damn time doing it.
Yeah, I think this is the 4th one in a row where I'll ask you, so when's your next episode coming out?
Waiting for Judge Dredd still.
Well, you know what? I believe, I'm not sure if it hit Canada yet, but Creed 2 just hit the home video market.
Oh.
So we'll be having our Creed 2 super special, which you guys are both a part of. Will be coming out soon, and then that'll be followed up by Judge Dredd. But absence makes the heart grow fonder, right, guys?
That's what they say. Yes, yeah.
That's why everyone's tired of our podcast, which is mine, the Going the Distance, the Rocky Series podcast. My name is Ryan, and I host that with my brother Ruben, that show. It could be found on every podcast app out there and social media out there. Just Google Going the Distance, the Rocky Series podcast, and you'll find me and our show.
If you think they're sick of you, Ryan, they got to be sick of us, because we release 1 episode every weekday. That's the Rocky Minute. We are just about wrapping up season 2, which we're thick in the deep of Super Fight 2 right now in Rocky 2. So, yeah, that's Rocky Minute on all your podcatchers out there. Go check that out.
I got to give you guys credit for suffering through that coma.
Oh, my God. It's been a lot of suffering. That was a slog. It was a slog for sure. Hey, we made it though.
Yeah. The best thing that Coma's ever done is shake Adrian out of her freaking stupor. That's about it.
Yeah, that's and after going through Rocky 2, we've come to realize, like, if they would have cut a few minutes out of the coma and dedicated that maybe elsewhere in the movie, like kind of building up the Rocky and Adrian's financial woes, for example, I think it might have done a little more service to that storyline, that part of the plot.
Well, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the writing prowess of Mr. Stallone, and not everything that he writes is Rocky 1. But
before let me come out and say just a couple of things, because I've gotten the impression that you guys both dislike this movie a whole lot compared to how much I at least appreciate it.
You cannot. Okay, listen. Well, first, as we always do, let's talk about when we first saw the film and how long it's been since we've seen the film for the first time. So I'll start. I did see this film, like I often do, and we talk about this in the theaters as a big Stallone fan. I paid a ticket, and in 2001, I would have been 26 years old, and I bought a ticket to the directed movie by Rennie Harlan, who gave us a fantastic film, which we haven't covered yet on our Stallone Podcast Network yet, Cliffhanger. And thinking to myself, boy, we got a kind of a Stallone version of Days of Thunder, and this is going to be amazing. And Rennie Harlan, the action director, here we go. And it's been 18 years since I've seen it. And so if that gives you an idea why it's taking me so long, and we'll get to my feelings, but I will say, watching it for the first time again in 18 years yesterday, I had forgotten, or it's a Mandela effect, of how horrible and brutal and terrible and outrageous this, seriously, I actually came in it thinking, it's going to be a kind of a hot take, my gentlemen. This movie is by far worse than Stop or My Mum Will Shoot.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm going to hang up.
Yeah.
I'm going to hang up right now and let you two
That is
bozos.
hot take.
Goodness.
Doug, go ahead. What's your take, Doug? Your overall take.
Like I knew the movie existed. I'm not a racing fan. I was never interested in anything NASCAR, Formula One, or Crash. What the hell is this called? Cash. What is it called?
Champ Car World Series.
I've never been interested in it, so this movie really didn't appeal to me. So I've never seen it before. Before reviewing it for this, which was last week, and I never imagined that Burt Reynolds could be a bad actor in anything, but I was corrected.
Well, but Craig, you mentioned the star-studded cast. So let's go through some of that cast. Star-studded, you say? Star-studded.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
First of all, I'm waiting for Ashton Kutcher to come out and tell me I'm being punked. But I also did see this movie in theaters in 2001, and then I probably watched it one more time when it came out on DVD. And I'm sure I went to Best Buy the day it came out and bought it. But it's probably been 17 years since I've watched this movie, and it definitely has the cast of a early 2000s movie. In addition to Sly, we've got Burt Reynolds, who was sort of on a career resurgence, much like Sly was. We've got Till Schweiger, who plays Bo Brandenburg. We've got yes.
Are we? How do you want to talk about each character? We can do an over. Okay, sorry. Yeah, sorry. This Till Schweiger guy. He's a German actor.
He's awesome.
Okay, I have to reckon this. This is Stallone's room. This is Stallone's The Room. I'm not even. I watched this movie and I thought I was watching the race car version of The Room. This guy, Till Schweiger, is literally the actor from The Room. What's his name again?
Tommy Wiseau.
Yes, that's him. Till is Tommy. They almost look the same. He looks like he's like a short-haired version of that guy. And the way he acts, I swear, when he says, "This is my life," I actually wrote The Room. I thought I was watching a version of The Room. Oh, okay.
All right.
This is the second language. Give him a break.
Yeah. So let's get into this right now because
no breaks are given this. Because
Stallone wrote the screenplay based on a story by two gentlemen named Jan Skrenti and Neil Tabachink. And so
nailed it.
I'm sure I nailed it. I apologize to those two gentlemen if they're listening.
They're not.
But so Sly wrote the screenplay, and I got to say two things. First of all, imagine this, and I know both of you are going to have a hard time doing this, but imagine this is like a 12-part miniseries.
Well, that would make Matt very excited.
But it almost feels like Sly was trying to jam too much story and too many characters into this 2-hour film. The other thing I'll say is a lot of the problems I think you have performance-wise are directly related to the shitty dialogue that Stallone gave them.
The writing was the worst part of this.
But you know what else is funny? There were those little things where you're like, wow, if this went through like 4 or 5 or 6 edits and you changed the character names, this scene could have been in a Rocky movie.
Oh, yeah, we're going to get to some of those quotes. So, yeah, I actually took I think the worse the movie, the better the notes I take. And I took a lot of notes for this movie. And I'm prepared to go through this movie actually in chronological order, more or less, if you guys are willing to do that.
All right, so we were running through the cast, and we already talked about it, Mr. Wiseau, Gina Gershon. And then we've got two up-and-comers that pretty much this might have been the movie they peaked at. We've got Kip Pardue, and we've also got Estella Warren, who the following year would do Planet of the Apes and then pretty much disappear.
Yeah, well, she's been a steady actress, but she has done nothing that you would recognize or have seen.
Yeah, and Kip Pardue, I started to feel bad for Kip Pardue, and then I Googled him, and I started seeing Me Too hashtags, so I slowly backed away from investigating what Mr. Pardue's been up to.
Oh, really, eh?
And then Rennie Harlan, who unfortunately was...
Oh, right here. Here you go. Regarding Kip Pardue, the Hermosa Beach Police Department announced it is investigating a report of sexual misconduct filed by True Blood actress Sarah Scott, who alleged she was sexually violated while at work in May by former co-star Kip Pardue.
Wow. So I am going to say probably another controversial statement here. Kip Pardue prettier than Estella Warren?
No, he's ugly.
Yes.
He was one of the worst. He was absolute. Okay. Oh, okay. His character. I wanted every time he's on the racetrack to crash. I just wanted him to die. I felt nothing for this character. I felt more for Tommy Wiseau's character, Bo Brandenburg. I actually like Bo better than quote unquote the guy we're supposed. Are we supposed to like anybody in this film? By the way,
Memo. We're supposed to like Memo.
And Memo is your
off a little bit.
Yeah, well, Memo is your poor man's version of Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Memo was like super positive, except when he goes crazy during that one race. But he was fun.
Yeah, he was good.
Yeah, and but you know what? You make a good point, Ryan, because there is nobody that's really likable in this movie.
There isn't. It's weird.
You can sort of argue that the brother, the manager guy, played by Robert Sean Leonard.
Yeah.
He's kind of a dick, but you can tell that he's got his brother's best interests in mind.
That he's the real villain. If there's a villain, it's him.
Yeah. Let's see what movies he's done here. So Robert Sean Leonard, who played Jimmy Bly. Well, yeah, we're kind of going over the place because anyone that hasn't seen this movie is wondering who the heck are we talking about. We'll get there. So why don't we start at the beginning? Let's just start at the beginning. Stallone was 54 when he made this movie, if that gives anyone any kind of context. I always like to say his age in the movie.
Again, he looked great in this movie.
He looked pretty good, yeah.
I think again
when in the movie.
Yeah, when he's trimmed down,
yeah,
and not bulked out for Rocky or Rambo, I think he looks good.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm just used to seeing him at this point doing these cheesy roles. He actually acted this very well. I thought he was the best actor in this movie.
Yeah, he did fine. No, he did. Yeah, I think Craig already brought it up that anything weak regarding acting, especially when it comes to Stallone, I think actually only when it comes to Stallone, because I think every other actor in this movie was horrendous. The scenes in this movie were horrendous. The editing was horrendous. I couldn't even handle. It's like, what am I looking at? People who are seeing this live or watch the camera, it's like this. People like
this. Ryan is the perfect example of what went sideways with filmmaking in the late 90s and early 2000s. They took like that Oliver Stone, the innovative Oliver Stone, like MTV inspired editing, and just went batshit crazy.
What about the CGI too? Like, it was so overused.
There was CGI. It all looks so real. Where was the CGI? It was seamless.
When that one tire goes flying up towards the camera and then lands in the crowd.
That's one of the worst ones. But why did you need like the CGI quarter? Like when he flips the quarter out, like why did you need that?
I love how the quarter was a CGI. It was like that was horrible.
And I feel like we're gonna go down. We're gonna take a lot of detours on this race to the finish. But there's like so much classic Sly stuff that got thrown against the wall here. The coins, like the ritual with the coins, and then also like the humming. Like that's the kind
of humming.
Okay, so
he's in the zone now. He's humming.
Okay, so let's spell this out for. We have to speak because I'm telling you right now that every one of our listeners on our respective podcasts, when they hear this on iTunes, I would say 95% of them haven't seen this film. So we're gonna have to really like try to spell things out for them.
Plot stuff,
yeah. So Stallone plays a guy named Joe Tanto.
No kidding.
Joe, and his name in the movie is Joe. This is a terrible name to name any man, unless you're not straight. Joe the Hummer Tanto. Can you imagine that was your nickname? Hey, Hummer. How you doing, bud? So we find out the reason why he is called the Hummer is because when he's racing back in his heyday, and I got the quote right here. There's a scene in the movie where he's racing around the track, and see, as you know, in these race car situations, they're on the headsets with their coaches or whatever they have in the pit. And somebody says, "Why is Joe humming?" And then Burt Reynolds says, something crazy he does when he's pushing close to the edge.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other individual goes, "Anyone else do this?" And the answer is, "Not among the living."
And that was that chubby dude, right?
Sure.
What
sure.
was that? That guy was that dude's a good actor. He might be the best actor in the movie.
He probably acted his scenes and his parts. He was like this kind of help guy in the pit and or the crew. He was like watching the monitors on the chat. Yeah. But let's start with the very beginning. So at the very beginning we have Stallone, so we have to have a montage. So we have a race montage right at the beginning. Cars are racing. We have announcers talking in the background about the circuits that are going on, and who's who in the zone. We have the two main pretty boys, Jimmy Bly, played by Kip Purdue, and then we have Bo Brandenburg, played by the German actor who looks like Tommy Wiseau. So those are our two. Thank you. So those two guys are the leads in this movie, and they're complete unknowns, and they remain that way to the North American public to this day.
Oh my goodness!
And unless you're on their police report,
Bill Schweiger and other stuff,
I would have to look him up.
He looks like a prototypical bad guy.
Yeah, sure. and we're led to believe, Doug, at the beginning of this film that he is the bad guy.
I know. I had such a hard time.
But he's not.
Finding out who to root for. Who am I rooting for in this?
So is there anything you guys... Yeah, exactly. No, is there anything you guys want to say about the race montage? Did you notice at the beginning of every race? So for our listeners, and probably all of them who haven't seen this movie, they run 10 races in a year, I think, and different cities like Tokyo, Germany, all these other different Detroit. The locations throughout the locations don't matter for our discussion of the film, but there's a variety of cities and countries that they go to throughout the film. And at the beginning of each race, though, they always have a gratuitous shot of 3 or 4 girls walking with midriff shirts and short shorts in some sort of display of the country they're in. Did you guys catch that?
Oh, yeah. And they were showing the overall reach of the Champ Car World Series, Ryan.
Which is what?
It's a big thing. They were selling out stadiums to watch these guys drive in circles.
According to the graphic, there was 900 million fans.
How's that possible? Because they said 900 million, I guess, viewers on TV. They have to factor that in. Okay.
Yeah. I got to say that this is a well-executed way to start a movie like this, because if nothing else, it sets the table. You might not like the way the table looks once it's set, but it set the table.
Sure. It's a smorgasbord of disaster. Go ahead there, Doug.
But they said that Leonardo DiCaprio was originally considered to play Jimmy Bly. Do you think that would have improved the film, or what would that have done for the film?
Leo's career would have sunk faster than the Titanic had he taken that role.
I think Leo's one of those actors, and there's a lot of guys like this.
Smart.
If they don't have a strong director helping them along, their weaknesses as an actor are going to shine through. And I think, unfortunately, Mr. Harlan was less interested in directing performances and more interested in midriffs and butts.
And
montages. A lot of midriffs, a lot of butts. Montages and butts.
I thought Rocky IV had a lot of montages.
No. This movie is an endless soundtrack of songs that are all crappy. Like, it's insane. Like, I couldn't believe every single scene had a song playing in the background with lyrics and everything. There was no soundtrack to this movie. It was all It was like literally, it was like someone had left the radio on for the whole filming.
This movie made me hate the early 2000s, and I lived through them, and I thought they were pretty inconsequential, aside from the obvious tragedies we had during that decade. But man, this movie really made me hate that decade a little bit.
I think it's fair to say Driven was worse than 9/11.
Says the Canadian.
Because I think it's actually hurt more people.
How dare you?
Oh goodness.
They have a composer listed as BT.
Another reason to hate the early 2000s.
Yeah. He probably doesn't want to be identified.
Did you go through the numbers yet?
Oh yeah. So this movie in today's money costs $138 million to make. It's a pretty healthy budget for a race car movie. It made in today's dollars, if it was released today, it would have made $75 million. So it lost half of its budget. So it cost 140 and it lost $75 million.
No surprise.
Well, you think?
First of all, racing is a very niche crowd.
Well, so, interestingly enough, this film came out the same year as Fast and Furious. Part 1. Yeah.
Wow. They feel years apart, man.
Isn't that weird? Weird? Both came out in 2001. Both came out in 2001. So there must have been something. You find that a lot in Hollywood where they have like competing scripts. You see it with like A Bug's Life and Ants. That's right. And you saw it with like Armageddon and Deep Impact. So there's always they always have these like weird Wyatt Earp and Tombstone. There always seems to be like compete, especially in the 90s and early 2000s, which is stuff here. There's always like a competing script ideas. So I think Fast and Furious and Driven might have kind of been that, because when they were racing, when they took we'll get to that scene when they get racing their race cars down the street.
Oh my God. I forgot about this.
Let's save it. Okay. So right after the montage, we get introduced to Bo Brandenburg and his fiance, and they're having a fight, an argument, because Bo is, that's right, with Sophia, who's played by the lovely and unknown Estelle Warren.
Who got the Razzie? Won the Razzie for this.
22 nominations.
That's a record for Sly. So we're caught in the middle, or we're introduced right in the middle of their fight, and he says in Tommy Wiseau's style, "This is my life," and
what am I?
Then she goes, "What am I?" And he goes, "A distraction." So. So they're engaged at this moment.
Wait, Ryan's not exaggerating the acting right there. It's pretty accurate.
No, trust me. This movie will have plenty. This episode, when I do the post-production, I am inserting these audio clips because people have to know the journey that we went through and some of this dialogue and acting. So they break up essentially. This is important because this girl plays a big role in this movie. So right now, Bo has broken up with his fiancée, Sophia, to focus on racing. He wants to be the champion. That's essentially the storyline right now. All right, so that's it. So then we kind of go to the next race. Am I right? It's race number 2.
Chicago Motor Speedway.
Oh, wow. You actually wrote down the cities. See, Doug, you
not all of them. I gave up.
Okay.
I gave up after this one.
So now we get introduced to a little bit more of the character Jimmy, and he's supposed to be. So Bo is he looks like a dick. He acts like a dick. That's Bo's character. Now Jimmy is supposed to be the good guy, the one that we're supposed to like, the one that we think we're supposed to root for. That's what Sylvester Stallone was trying to write in the screenplay. We see him in the car, and his brother is his manager, or whatever you want to call it. And he has a really bad line here to his brother. He says, "You better win this thing, or you're going to look like a damn fool." What is that? I don't understand what that. But is that the support you get from your brother? Like, win this thing,
your manager.
What a weird.
But how would he look like a fool? He's a rookie racer.
Exactly.
Right, and he's killing it in the standings. So if he loses one race in the middle of the season, he's going to look like a fool.
That's right. It's like you guys watch sports or are very familiar with sports at the very least. And the journey of a season, yeah, you have some bad games, but no one's going to look a damn fool for the rest of their career by having a bad game.
Mm-hmm. They give you some exposition too. I mean, and the race announcers are very key in this because
Yes.
they explain to you.
Yeah, please explain their ABCs about their commenting here.
Well, apparently, like if you're driving directly behind another car, you're sitting in the vacuum of air, meaning that you're moving at a good rate because the air is going around you instead of hitting you. But when you move out towards the side, then the wall of air hits you, and that's apparently what makes Jimmy Bly spin out.
Right.
Inexplicably.
What I love about these commentators, I'll say it for the whole movie, every time they commentate about these races, they're talking to us, and maybe rightfully so, but we're supposed to pretend that they are talking to the ESPN viewer at home in the living room, but they are actually explaining racing to us.
Ryan, this wasn't on ESPN. This was like on
the Ocho.
Oh yeah, the Ocho, or like what was that? TNN, the Nashville Network.
The Nashville Network.
It was on
the bull riding.
But the thing is, it'd be like excuse me, I'm a big hockey fan, right? A hockey watcher. But it'd be like me watching every game. Yeah, no kidding. It'd be me like watching every game. So just so you know, when the hockey player has the puck, he's trying to pass it to another player. And sometimes that pass might go offside. And that's what happened. That's how the commentators were talking about racing. They were explaining racing to us.
Do you feel like those scenes would have worked without it, though?
I don't know, a balance, maybe a little bit of like realism that we're just take into account that maybe the audience just has seen enough racing to understand that, hey, you're trying to be first place. I don't know. What do you guys think? Were the commentators too much? That's my take on that. They dummied it down for the average viewer, I guess, and I caught it. And I'm not even a race car watcher, so I thought it was too much.
I noticed it, but there were things that bothered me about this movie. That was not one of them.
Okay, that's fair. What did you think about when? So speaking of Jimmy, when he does spin out of control, there was a scene where he had a vision of his brother, like a ghostly figure, talking to him in the car, saying, "Oh, you're gonna look like a damn fool." Remember that? Do you remember that scene? Yes, and then it says,
"Yeah, like that's what got into his head."
Yes, so we see him, like the viewer sees him sitting in the car, but we see like an apparition, like you do in a cartoon made for kids of his brother speaking to him. You're gonna be a fool, and then he does spin out of control, and the commentators go, spinning out of control. Trust me, I'm gonna put that in because that's real. They really. I was like, what are we? This is the first 5 minutes.
Yeah. This is going to be a long episode.
No, this was a long movie. I stopped this movie and did something else at least 6-7 times. I had to step away.
It felt a good 30 minutes shorter than Assassins, though. Can we agree on that?
Yeah, I'll give you that. Assassins was a slog for sure.
I'll say this about this movie, and I normally gauge whether or not I like a movie based on that. And it's the fact that there wasn't a point during this movie where I wasn't entertained. Now, take out of the equation whether or not it's good or bad, but this movie never lost my attention, which is the worst thing a movie can do.
Okay. That's why I called this Stallone's The Room. This is Stallone's The Room. I watched it like I would watch a train wreck. I was actually because look, I love Sly, and I've been a Sly fan, but I was actually surprising myself how much I had forgotten how terrible this movie was. And I was thinking, like, I was truly wondering if this was a Mandela effect, that I had maybe in a different universe, I saw the Craig version. Like, you're on a different timeline than I'm on, because what you're saying about this film right now, I thought I was going to be saying until I saw the film. I'm like, this is not what I remember. This is much, and I'm not a strong critic. I'm not one of these snooty, tooty critics. I watch The Bachelor with my wife. Okay, I'm not afraid to watch like goofy, stupid stuff. But something about this film just made me like this isn't supposed to be bad at all. This was really bad acting and bad dialogue, bad editing, bad music. This was just it. I can't even fathom anyone liking this for real. For real. Sorry, I was actually surprised about how bad this was.
Well, all I know is it's time to call Joe Tanto.
I got the exact. That's exactly the thing I have my notes there. I'm crossing out as I go along. Next thing is time to call Joe Tanto. That was said by Burt Reynolds, of course, who's now Professor X in a wheelchair the whole movie for some reason.
Which is never explained. Like, why is he in a wheelchair?
Yes,
because Burt Reynolds was probably like, "I'm not going to stand up for this nonsense."
Yeah. Well, no, is it explained why he's in a wheelchair? Is this something to do with the only thing I could gather is that Stallone or his character Joe did something reckless in a race that caused him to be in a wheelchair.
Wasn't there that line when they have that big epic Razzie-worthy showdown where they're yelling at each other, and like Burt Reynolds is like, "You threw it all away, and I'm in this chair, and you're healthy," or something like that. That was the only bit of dialogue that made me think that there was some kind of story behind him being disabled.
I will say this now, if I can find it, I'll insert it at this point in the iTunes release. That I think there was an earlier discussion that it was either with the initial phone call or something hinted at that when he was angry at him or something. I'll find it because there's not that many scenes of Sly and Burt talking to each other where something was said about something reckless or something that caused, like, that's why he owes him. That was the hint. Something about, you owe me this or something like this because I'm sitting here and you're up there and you have potential and I don't, type thing, because I'm stuck in a wheelchair. Something to that effect. That's why he holds this over Joe, I think.
Yeah, and I gotta give some heavy criticism to this character because reading all the Joe Tanto, the Hummer.
Okay.
Hummer, okay. All the backstory we get and about Tanto being sort of a racer who burnt out and potentially has substance abuse issues in his past and is broken. At no point in this movie did I get that from Sly's performance. He seemed completely balanced. He seemed like he completely had his shit together, and it didn't seem like he had any demons in his past that he had to work through. Oh. And it's probably my biggest criticism of this movie.
You are a gentleman.
No, because I think movies are they live and die by their characters, right? But Tanto was just supposed to be this Mr. Miyagi type guy, but he's got this dark backstory, and you didn't feel any of it.
No.
I will say, I'm confused by his character, and this will come up. I don't want to forget to say it. Sorry, Doug, I didn't mean to step on you there, but just I was confused about Joe's role. And 1 minute he's racing, 1 minute he's training, 1 minute he's racing again, next minute he's training. Like, he wasn't even, when Burt's character called him and said, "Hey, we need you," he like Stallone's character Joe literally packed his bags, thought he was coming to race for Burt. But so, like, I don't understand. Their conversation was like, even me as a viewer, I think I got the impression he was there to train this guy. But he was like, "Oh, I'm not here to race. I'm here to train this guy." Like even Stallone's character was confused about his role in this whole process.
Yeah, and then this is basically what creates the need for like almost a completely useless Kathy and Memo characters. They only exist really to establish that Joe is replacing somebody. Without them, you lose that all-important teamwork moment where they save Memo. But Memo's worthless. There's no bit of his character that has any kind of impact on the story. And then Tanto's ex-wife, Kathy, has even less. She's a royal bitch until her husband gets in an accident, and then she's Miss Congeniality.
Yeah, but there's no payoff. There's no setup or payoff to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that at the end because I want to speak to her too. No, that's fine. I'm trying hard for this one. For the first time on our show, I want to go in chronological order.
Well, this is kind of chronological order. Now, you were talking about the relationship between Joe and I don't even know Burt Reynolds' character's name, for Christ's sakes, Carl. The only indication that there was something reckless or wrong with Joe Tanto is when the German guy, I can't remember his name. Jesus.
Oh, come on, man.
These characters are so unmemorable. I'm sorry.
the German guy's name is Bo Brandenburg.
Well, yes. When Joe Tanto shows up, Bo says something to him about him almost killing him. Right.
That's right.
So so that's the only indication that Joe Tanto is reckless is because he almost killed Bo Brandenburg. I don't know, like 5 years ago.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe it was the same race that put Carl, Burt's character, in a wheelchair, but it's really never explained. And I honestly think they thought that by putting Burt in a wheelchair, it would add some bravado and drama to the movie.
I'm telling you, man, this is why this movie needed to be like a mini series. There's too much story. There is too much story for this movie.
I didn't even realize he was in a wheelchair for most of it.
Oh man. Burt's, but okay, we'll get to Burt. So Burt says to Sly over the phone, he goes, "Fear is never gone." Because I guess Sly's character, Joe, Joe, I guess he did something that's what it's never really talked about. And this is what Craig might be saying. There was some big movie within a movie that happened with this Burt character and Sylvester Stallone's character, where they did have something happen tragic to Burt's character. He's in a wheelchair, and now Joe has retired from racing because he's afraid. For the first time in my life, I'm afraid. Okay.
I got you. I got the kid. Oh no, one movie.
Oh man. So speaking of Rocky quotes, so now we get to a scene that's chronologically. We're not spelling out the movie verbatim here, but we get to the next scene where Stallone's character Joe is talking to the pretty boy Jimmy Bly, the character that we're supposed to like, and he gives them this Rockyism type quote. This kind of check this out. You'll recognize it when you hear it. So I guess Jimmy is feeling down about whatever, he was a emo the whole time.
Yeah,
but
emo,
and he was sweating in every scene. Did you notice that? Constantly, everyone was sweating. Was it just hot wherever they went? They were sweating at the bar. They were sweating at the bar. He was sweating in his hotel room. He was sweating in his room. He was sweating everywhere. I think he actually sweated more outside the car than racing. But here's the quote. He goes, so Joe in his Miyagi wisdom says, "Everybody trips. That's okay. That's life. It's how fast you get up that counts."
Oh man.
That was an early draft of the Rocky Balboa speech. He just tweaked it and spent a couple more years. He spent 4 years tweaking it.
Stop. It's true though. This came out 5 years before Balboa.
Get up and get up fast.
Everybody trips. That's okay. That's life. It's how fast you get up. That's what counts. Now, that's a terrible. What does he mean? How fast you get up? What?
He needed to edit it and refine it and make it perfect for Rocky Balboa.
Well, you get it fast. It's a racing movie. Fast.
I guess. Anyways, that was the first Rockyism that I caught there. So we already mentioned that he thought he was there to race, but he's training, and then he shows off just for poops and giggles his coin trick scene. Do you guys want to talk about the coin trick scene?
Wait, before we get to that, first of all, we miss a key character, very key character.
Yeah, there are some.
Well, we meet Joe's love interest, Luke.
Oh, the reporter.
Oh yeah.
The reporter, there's ultimately no payoff for. There's no story at the end of the movie that he publishes.
No, there's no.
No, we see them hold hands, I guess, and during the little the feeling good montage at the end, they were, they seemed to like each other. I guess I think we're led to believe. Did they kid? That's right.
That is she was played by Stacey Edwards, who we most recently saw in 2014's The Devil's Hand.
Oh, sure, that big blockbuster, The Devil's Hand. Let's see if we recognize. Oh, she was a super bad. She played Evan's mom.
Oh,
What else?
I remember.
She was in
doing a lot of TV work now, it looks like.
Oh yeah, that would be where you'd find somebody like. Because I actually was going to say she looks like your standard woman on television character that could play a multitude of the teacher, the neighbor, I mean, she's a working actress.
Hawaii Five-0, Great Grey's Anatomy, Castle, Shameless.
Yeah, but she hasn't acted since 2015. Oh boy.
Yeah, well, she's got probably that fat driven check came in the mail at the first of the year, and she can take off for a year.
Yeah, maybe.
That
maybe
residual check's got to be some big money.
She's making it rain.
Yeah, well, I wanted to order this movie on pay-per-view, but it's so not requested that I couldn't even find it. I had to get an illegal copy from a listener.
Was this? Is it Carl who says like he kind of lays out some exposition for us dummy viewers,
right?
When we get a glimpse of Joe's ex-wife, he says that ex-wife of yours is a piece of work, divorces you, marries a fellow driver. Like I'm sure Joe already knows that.
That was some of the stiffest exposition. It was like, God, there's 8 million different ways Sly could have done that. And that's what makes this frustrating, because I read a quote from Sly where he said he wrote about 25 drafts of this film, dating back as far as 1997. So it's not like he whipped this up on a weekend, while he had nothing better to do. This is something that Sly invested himself in and took the trouble to write 25 drafts. And
the original script was 220 pages long.
Yeah, it was a 4-hour movie.
Like what?
It was a 4-hour movie, and there was 51 minutes of deleted footage on the DVD.
As we speak right now, Matt is going crazy.
Matt, our only listener right now live. Matt, just so you know, there's a cut out there that's 4 hours long. It's your mission is, shall you choose to accept it? Find that 4-hour cut.
Godspeed, Matt.
Oh man, we'll never see him again. So what's next here? So we meet, that's right, Craig brought up, we meet the ex-wife, and she comes up to Joe, Kathy, and I have an ex-wife, okay, and that's fine, and I've talked to her throughout the years, but my ex-wife has never said this to me on any meeting that she's ever had with me. So Kathy comes up to Joe and goes, well, how do I look?
Oh my God. This
that was her introduction.
Exchange. It was embarrassing. It's like, go ahead, ask me.
Yeah, that's right. Go ahead, ask me. What? How do I look?
No, he says, do you love him? I love a lot of things.
Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry.
Why do you have to marry him?
Yeah, I do. Every time Stallone acts that way, I think of you, Doug.
Again, don't blame Gina Gershon for the shitty dialogue that Sly gave her.
No, I love her. I think she's a great actress.
But her character was horribly developed.
She's got that great line at that party scene where she thinks Sly is trying to make a move on the journalist. Mm-hmm. And she goes, what, you have till midnight or something? Or else it's not going to happen. And if it does, I don't think it's worth it.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, she was brutal. Nobody would tolerate that. Nobody would tolerate that kind of poison for that long.
There's nobody that's really that evil in real life. That's a succubus.
No, but again, guys, I think we're missing the fact that she's probably like this because Joe Tanto was such a terrible human being that put everybody in his life through hell. This is the fault of Stallone the writer for not and Stallone the actor for not illustrating what was wrong with Joe Tanto. And all of the other characters in this movie suffer from it.
And the viewers.
And us, namely.
No, and the other thing is, you say what you want about Rennie Harlan. He's made some great classic movies. This is not one of them. Cliffhanger,
Deep Blue Sea.
Deep Blue Sea, I saw in the theater like 4 times. But the problem is, I don't think Rennie Harlan cared enough to hold Stallone's feet to the fire here and make him justify some of the shit he was doing as a writer.
So this 4-hour cut, I wonder if there was a movie that was worth salvaging in there, and it was an editing issue. You know what I mean? Like, I wonder had it been edited better. We don't know. We'll never know. But
was Sly still a pain in the ass to work for it or work with at this point?
54.
Well, he was coming. He was about to enter. Some really lean years. He had just made.
I think he was in the thick of some really lean years.
Yeah, I think he was. I think this might have been one of his few theatrical releases in the 2000s.
Well, after Copland, he made Ants and Detox, Get Carter, and then Driven.
Oof.
And then he made Avenging Angelo, Spy Kids 3, and Shade before Rocky Balboa in 2006. So
we got some doozy episodes coming up in our future.
Yeah, he was definitely humbled here. And I know that Sly sort of based this story on, the fact that you can't always be number one.
Sure.
And he tried to create like a metaphor between acting and racing.
Yes. Typical, yeah. It was there. There's actually, since you're speaking to it, I'll bring it up now. There's a last line to Joe to Jimmy where he said, enjoy this moment when he won the championship. Spoiler alert, he wins the championship. He goes, enjoy this, being a champion, being at the top, because it doesn't last long. So that was that autobiographical moment that Stallone himself in his career had kind of reached from the 70s and 80s. Now he's in the late 90s, early 2000s. He's not the box office champion anymore, and he's speaking to that through this dialogue. It's supposed to be a passing of a torch to a younger actor, and it's embarrassing that now a 72-year-old Stallone is a much bigger actor than this Kip Pardue.
Did you guys ever see? I believe the movie was called The Rules of Attraction.
Mm-hmm.
It was like James Vanderbeek was in it. Do you remember Do you remember Kip Pardue in it?
No, I don't.
Do you remember the scene where the guy's telling the story about traveling through Europe? And he's like scattershot.
Years ago.
That's Kip Pardue, and it's amazing. It's like a little movie within the movie.
He did okay in it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Very memorable, I see.
Yeah. Well, we get right after we meet the ex-wife, we meet Memo. Memo.
Wait, does this, before we even get to Memo, does this whole quarter scene, does this mean anything? Is there...
Oh, sorry. Yeah, we kind of talk about the quarter scene.
No, it's just one of those quirky Stallone cutting the pizza with scissors, whatever other corny nonsense he puts into movies to make his characters quirky.
Which is also supposed to make the kid kind of in awe of him, right? Because like he does it now, he's flipping these quarters out of the car, and the kid is like, "Oh, what is he doing?" And everybody's like, "Oh, wait till you see this."
Yeah, he's gonna pick them up with his back tire, not his front.
No, he picks up with the back tire in the turn, and as you know, the tires of these cars get very hot and they get melted rubber. So when he goes over the coin, it picks up the coin, it gets sucked into the tire. And he does it 3 times. I love how these guys, like 100 feet away, can spot him catching the quarter. Like, oh, they got it.
Yeah,
he got the first quarter.
That's 2.
Yeah. And then he starts humming. That's where the humming scene comes in, because he's about to go over the edge to get the third one, because I guess that one was placed in the hardest position of the 3. And I love how at the end, he doesn't even bother checking the tire completely that he's got all 3, because the third one is behind the tire. He has to rotate it.
Yeah.
And Burt's character says, "Hey, rotate the tire." And there's the third quarter indeed. But we see Joe walking away from the car without even verifying himself that he had all 3. He was so certain. Yeah.
Now let me ask you guys this: do you think those quarters would be in pristine condition, or would they have been ground down to like a flat surface?
I don't think they would have been honestly, I think they would have been sucked into the rubber without being flattened anymore.
No.
Well, the CG artist didn't know what purpose they were serving, right? He just was like saying, "So I got to create CGI quarters. I don't know why, but I'll go ahead and do it."
Can you imagine that phone call? So we're gonna have a scene here where we're gonna flip a quarter. I'm gonna have bird's eye view order over this scene, and a quarter will be flipped. Okay, cool. So I need you to make a quarter. But like a CGI quarter, or we can just get one from the prop department. Maybe just get a larger size version of a quarter that we could properly just film. Can you imagine we could just film a quarter flipping and landing on the ground? No. It's got to be CGI. No, but if you get a real quarter, it would look real. Like you wouldn't have to pay money, you could just zoom in on the quarter hitting the ground. You don't have to spend $1. In fact, it'll cost you $0.25.
He's like, it's got to be CGI, and you have 15 minutes.
Well, because Rennie Harlan was like, guys, I'm pretty sure this is my last big budget Hollywood movie. I'm getting my CGI quarter.
All right, so let's move on to.
We got Memo, right? We meet Memo.
Memo. So check out Memo's first line. So we had the first line from Kathy was, well, how do I look? And then Memo's. This is where the room, like this. If you watch, I'm challenging all of our listeners. Watch this movie thinking it's The Room, Stallone's version of The Room, and you might have some fun. This would be a fun viewing party movie. That's why I called this The Room. I think if I would watch this with you guys and we were watching it together, I would have had a great time. Watching by myself, which is what The Room is like. Watching that movie by yourself, it's horrible, but with friends, it's fun. So Memo says, "Look at you. Hey, you." Sorry, it goes. It goes. Hey, look at you. Hey, you been good?
I love his impressions.
Sorry, I suck. But so that was the line. The actual line was, "Look at you. Hey, you been good?" I know.
I don't know.
And I'm inserting that audio because it's even worse than I'm making it sound.
But
and
how progressive is this? Memo threatens to divorce or says he'll divorce his wife in order to make Joe happy, and then he offers to marry Joe.
Oh, yeah, we should make it known to our listeners who haven't seen the movie. Memo and Joe are good friends, but Memo has married Joe's ex-wife, Kathy. And which is crazy because Joe is even more cordial and funny and nice guy than Joe ever would be. And Joe's a pretty even-keeled guy, but Memo is just like a goofy, easygoing, and even his wife, Kathy, Joe's ex-wife, seems to tolerate and allow him to have this friendship with her ex-husband.
The heart wants what it wants. I have the note that I wrote down was Memo seems like a good guy, which means he's going to die.
Yeah, we'll get
or do something incredibly stupid for no reason.
But this is me who's never seen this movie before.
Yeah,
and that was my initial instinct, was that he was going to die.
Yeah, good call. And that's what I had forgotten his character, and I knew there was a big crash coming up, but I couldn't remember if he died or not. But yeah, you knew that his character, he's too innocent to escape this Game of Thrones type movie. And then we go to this race. Memo's in as well, and everyone's in it. Joe's in it, I think, too. And we got a line here, which is just me being juvenile, and I might edit this out. The dialogue was, "I can't find a hole," and Burt says, "Don't look for a hole, make a hole." That's all.
You better apologize for that one.
That's all that one was.
But who does
why
Jimmy...
Carl's one of the best at what he does.
That's right. You don't look for a hole, you make holes. Yeah.
Who does Jimmy show up to the race with? Anyone?
Oh,
Sophia?
That's right. We missed that for our listening audience who has seen this movie. There was a scene at a bar between one of these races where Sophia, who's now broken off her engagement with Bo, is now making the moves and flirting with Billy, the sweet kid, who's an opponent of Bo's. And now she's jumped ship and is now trying to date and get into the pants of Billy. Mm-hmm. And they seem to have a kind of a flirty, fun relationship, friendship, but they never consummated it on screen or otherwise.
Who the hell's Billy?
Billy is the terrible actor Kip Pardue.
That's Jimmy.
Boy. Oh, sorry. Jimmy, Billy, same thing.
See, it's hard, right?
Yeah. So my apologies, Jimmy. Everything I said about Billy was Jimmy. That was the character we're supposed to be rooting for some reason. I have yet to find anything endearing about this guy, whether his character, his look, his acting, his constant sweat.
Mm-hmm.
There's a scene. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was gonna. No, it's okay. I was gonna say something about what Craig said before, that Jimmy's brother is pretty much just kind of looking out for him, but he's a huge dick to Sophia the whole movie.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is warranted.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's not warranted. He's the bad guy. He's like the George Washington Duke of Rocky V. He has nothing but greed on his mind. He's using his brother to finance his life or whatever. Boy, we're already running to an hour. Why don't we just talk about some disasters now? Because I can't keep up with this plot.
Well, we can run through it a little bit.
Okay, well, let's talk about there's a scene then, speaking of Sophia and Jimmy, where they're at a hotel and there's a pool, and some of the worst dialogue in movie history. And again, this is like The Room. He asks her, I gotta find it. Why don't you talk about something? I'm gonna read this out because you have to hear this.
Well,
all right.
This is exposing, or this is showcasing Estella Warren's swimming skills.
Yep, that's right.
She was a synchronized swimmer.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. Yeah, in real life. So we get so Rennie Harlan's like, hey, you want to wear a swimsuit for me? Let's put you in the pool.
A real flattering one piece.
Yeah, a one piece. Like, I know. Like, come on. The one time we could have used a bikini. Like, seriously.
But he asked her where did she learn how to do that, and she says, "I was raised by frogs." Is that the line you were talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, ribbit.
Come on. Okay, come on. This is coming here. Come here. Just give me a second.
Sorry, I'm jumping all over your bit there.
Well, yeah, it's going to be inserted anyways for the post production, but I really should have had a better. But yeah, basically that's just it. You know, I've never seen swimming so strange before. And she goes, yeah, I was raised by frogs. And he's like, then she goes, I escaped. And then she just went ribbit. And I guess we're supposed to find that funny that she made the sound of a frog.
Like, look at it, like she's a playful girl.
Right.
I don't know.
But then we have this crazy scene right after where, for no apparent reason, I don't understand. Joe is like friends with everybody. He's friends with Billy and with Bo.
It's not Billy, it's Jimmy.
He's friends with Jimmy and he's friends with he seems to be friends with everybody in the circuit.
Yeah.
But he goes and tells Bo to get Sophia back, to take her back as his fiance and get him away from Jimmy. What was his reasoning for that? Because his racing hadn't really been affected by Sophia, but he's telling Bo, you know what? This girl's good for you.
Yeah, I thought this was a weird kind of exchange between the two of them, because I don't like Joe seems like he's submarining his teammate, but is he really just like looking out for Bo because like Bo is throwing away something good for racing?
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't seem like Bo wanted the engagement off because he wanted to focus on racing. Now you can criticize that reason, but that was his reason. He didn't want to be engaged with this girl anymore because
so it would make sense that Joe tells him like, look, you're being stupid. This is, racing is just for now, but your girl's forever.
You know what? What you just said there was better than any dialogue we heard throughout the whole movie.
Well, thank you.
That was great reasoning. That would have made sense. That kind of conversation would have made sense.
Yeah, but it's never laid out that way. Like I said, it seems like Joe is submarining his own teammate.
Right here. It's right here. I got the line. Joe says, hey, Bo, if this is about pride, you better forget it, because that's how this whole thing started. What whole thing? What whole thing?
I don't know. I don't know.
And then Bo says, what would you do? Joe says, me? To get someone back that I really loved? To get that rock out of my stomach? I'd crawl.
Oh, yeah.
Crawl. Bo said, you'd crawl? Joe,
crawl. You never crawl.
But Joe, you never crawl. And then Joe says, yeah, I'd crawl until there was nothing left. Come on, champ. Use your head. What? Stallone wrote this.
I would crawl until there's nothing left. What?
I would crawl back under that rock.
Oh my God.
This is a horrible dialogue.
But it
doesn't make sense. But it doesn't make sense. I don't know what they're talking about. I don't understand. I know. Like
this whole exchange is the last time we saw them two interact, it was antagonistic, right?
Right.
But this whole exchange, like Bo is laughing at the whole crawl thing until there's nothing left. Like it seems lighthearted, like they're friends now. Like, what's the line? Like, who are we rooting for here?
I have no idea. So now we're rooting for the idea that we want to see this relationship break off again and have this girl, she's being tossed to and from. She has gone between these guys in this movie. Like, I don't know. I don't want to say anything derogatory, but I did find the dialogue here about the swimming. Jimmy asks Sophia when they're swimming, "What are you doing?" And she says, "Swimming." And then Jimmy says, "Swimming? That's swimming to you? Huh? I don't think that's swimming. That's a little beyond."
Oh my God.
He goes, "I've never seen anything like that. Pretty fantastic. Where'd you learn to do that?" And she goes, I was raised by frogs." "Raised by frogs?" And then she goes, "Ribbit, ribbit. Well, I'm glad you escaped," he says. "Thank you." And then she goes, "Thank you. Jimmy, what's on your mind?"
Oh my God.
It's almost like, "I didn't hit there. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark." That's exactly what this feels like, that tempo and dialogue.
Let me ask you a question. Did Craig bail out of this because he knew that this was horseshit?
I was wondering. I have our camera minimized, and I didn't see that. I was like, "Why is Craig being so quiet?" And he has gone. Craig has left the building. I just see that now. I had our camera minimized. I didn't see that. I just thought he was being really quiet. I feel like I'm talking too much, as always.
Yeah,
so
I'm sure he'll chime back in. Something must have popped up.
Oh, there he is. Craig, welcome back. Welcome back to the show. You missed nothing.
My internet didn't appreciate all the bashing, so it took a dump.
We just summoned you.
This was your vote, by the way. And by the way, this was our first tiebreaker. We had to have a tiebreaker recount between this and the Lords of Flatbush. And I think I would have had a much more enjoyable time watching Lords of Flatbush than Driven. But
you know what? By the way, I want to put everybody who voted for Driven on notice, because you bastards aren't even here to see this live.
Yeah.
Where are you?
Yeah, you put us to the ringer. You better listen to or download our episode, because, oh man,
I got to say this, guys. I know there's podcasts out there that have covered Lords of Flatbush. This is quite possibly a historic moment. This might be the first podcast that's ever devoting this much time, or any time, to the movie Driven.
Anytime, correct.
Yeah, I think we put more thought and consideration into this film than was put into the film during the filming. This is an absolute disaster.
So what did I miss?
Well, we just read through the quotes of the ribbit. We found it, and the dialogue that Bo and Joe had, where Joe tells Bo, "Get your girl back, girl back," and we're just trying to figure out the reasoning behind that. Do you have any insight to why Joe was telling Bo to get the girl back?
Probably because we have that. This is another instance where Stallone is going to show his complete and utter incompetence in handling story beats. We're probably seeing this happen to Joe Tanto, and Tanto let Kathy get away, and whatever happened to him happened. So he's, having lived through this, he's trying to convince Bo that Sophia's not the problem. And she's possibly the part of the solution.
Okay.
If only that was expressed.
Yeah. If only that was somehow dialogued, that would have been amazing.
Well, when Matt finds the 4-hour cut for us, and you watch it, and you turn around and say, "Guys, this is a unheralded masterpiece," we'll have that discussion.
I think Matt's even left.
I know. I guarantee you, Matt's still watching, but he's falling asleep. I'm calling you out, Matt. You've fallen asleep because it's late for him. It's 12 o'clock at night. Well, it's late for you, Doug. You okay? You hanging in there?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Should we get to the prototype party?
Well, yeah, because so it's important that we brought in that conversation with Joe and Bo, because now Bo, at this prototype look into the future of these vehicles party, it's a gala event that they're supposed to dress in formal wear, and of course our hero Joe Joe is just wearing his normal clothes, man. He's too cool for school. He brought a bow tie, but he has it in his pocket. It's not even done up. That's how cool he is. Nothing?
I have nothing to say.
Okay.
I have nothing to say about this whole, Kathy, I guess that's her name, comes in and talks shit to Luke, who's now Joe's romantic interest.
Yeah,
Luke, but that's where we get the great line. We get, and I can't wait to hear this when Ryan drops it in about about having till midnight, and even if he does, it's probably not worth it. Which is, God, I hope Stallone took the rest of the day off after he wrote that line.
He dropped the mic. He dropped the pen. He was like, print it.
He's like, hey, yo, it's only 10 o'clock, but it's about as good as it's going to get today.
What were those other 24 drafts?
So what about the exchange in the bathroom between Kathy and Luke when they talk shit to each other? And I didn't even write down what they said.
Yeah, I'll insert the audio for that one too. It's too good to pass up for our listening audience, but it was basically just for those who aren't going to listen to the audio post-production show. They were just very catty with each other. Just the ex-wife getting mad at the girlfriend dating her ex-husband. I love how the ex-wife is allowed to like literally be remarried, but Joe can't have a girlfriend.
Right.
You know, like.
But Luke, you know, she gets the last word because she says like your mascara's running, and then rubs her own eye with her middle finger.
Yes,
like
clever.
Oh,
yeah, scratching yourself with the middle finger. Oh, that's brutal. That's the biggest burn in history.
Cuts deep.
Oh, so there's a reporter. You guys, this was one of the funniest scenes in the whole movie, and I truly
throw a party.
Would you stop? Don't say it. Wait. So a reporter tracks down Jimmy. You know, he goes,
nerd.
He goes, if you win the championship, what would you do? And Jimmy goes, I don't know. And the reporter right away goes, I'd throw a party. What are we doing here? Seriously, I can't remember. Stallone wrote this. Why would the reporter say? Why would he say, "Okay, now I want you to say that you throw a party"? Why didn't he just say, "Buy a house"? Oh man, I would travel the world. I would. It must be overwhelming to think what you do with that money. But you know, what about travel the world? What part of the world would you like to see? But the reporter just like chimes in. Oh, I would throw a party.
I don't understand that either.
Oh man. So Sophia goes back to Bo. Mm-hmm. Jimmy throws a hissy fit, and steals. We should say this party was to announce or showcase these futuristic, top of the line racing cars. There happened to be 2 of them, and not only were they on display, but they both had keys in them and fuel, ready to be driven out at any moment. If someone decided on the off chance, somebody could have just jumped in the vehicle. And lo and behold, it happens. Go ahead there, Craig.
I was going to say, a lot of times we ask Doug for his law enforcement experience. Yes. And here is a case where I actually have some experience for this scene. Because here in Las Vegas, I don't know if we've talked about it, I work in the convention business. So a lot of times we're on the convention floor dealing with displays. And sometimes companies will bring vehicles in. Excuse me. And there are a strict set of rules from the fire marshal related to how you can display vehicles in order to maintain safety during exhibitions.
Right.
And one of them is the amount of fuel you're allowed to have in the car.
Sure.
And then also, once placed, the battery is to be disconnected.
Wow.
Now, I'm not sure how these prototypes worked, but I know they ran on fuel, not gas, fuel.
Sorry, my apologies.
Which will play into the movie a little bit later.
Ugh,
yeah, but then also batteries. So aside from just leaving the keys in these prototypes, any fire marshal worth his salt wouldn't have allowed these cars to be on display the way they were.
I also read that these particular like the Formula One style race car doesn't start with a key. In like the ignition that the driver turns on, it's like started in the back by a crew member with like you have to start the engine up by hand.
Yeah, like a lawnmower or something
like that. Yeah.
So
we hear
disbelief here.
We hear Kip Pardue like turn the ignition though, don't we?
Sure. Why not?
Yeah. So now that we understand there's these 2 cars on display that everyone's oohing and awing over, Jimmy sees that Sophia has made the decision at this gala event to go back to her fiance, and he accepts her coming back, and he's asked for her to come back. So now they're a happy couple again.
Well, actually, he proposes to her.
Reproposes. That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes,
gives her ring back,
and he sees it. Basically, they have a little like Beverly Hills 90210 little scruff fight, and he jumps into the car and he speeds off. And Joe, seeing a distraught young man speed off in a prototype race car into the streets, the city streets, figures, well, I've got to stop him because he might hurt somebody or hurt himself. So he jumps into the second race car, and they have a race car CGI disaster race through the streets of what city was this again? I don't remember.
Chicago.
Okay. Tell me your thoughts on the street chase, on the race car street chase.
I hated every second of it. Every single second. I hated it.
Yes, I agree.
Okay.
There's nothing
even when the
about
skirt got blown up and you saw the girl's butt.
All right, so there was 1 second that I liked.
Yeah. So for those who haven't seen the movie, the idea these cars are going so fast and causing so much disruption in the air that when they're going by newsstands and they're going by people's clothes, the clothes get torn off, and they're causing basically sonic booms everywhere they drive. So they're driving at such a velocity and veracity throughout these. There is no way at the speeds and the distance they go that they would not have gone to an accident. It's impossible to drive anywhere that fast for any amount of time in any major city.
195
but also they would have been in
miles an
California by the time they were done, right?
Right,
So yeah,
They
to
were
the
going
peak of Chicago.
195 miles an hour.
That's insane. That's insane.
Because we get the scene where the motorcycle cop or the cop's got his radar gun out, and he needs to use the radar to determine they're going too fast.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
right.
Doug, I have to ask, you're a cop, right?
As always, yes. Just like last time.
So I have a cop question for you as well. So the traffic cop sees these two race cars. So pretend you're on traffic duty. I know you don't do that anymore, but pretend you're on traffic duty and your job is the radar gun, which you've done, I'm sure, in your career.
Sure.
And you see the 195 zoom two streetcars. This was this traffic cop's voice report to his desk mate or whoever he talks to. I need backup. Okay, so can I ask you, what would be a better police report than I need backup? Because as far as I'm on the other end of this radio call, I'm like, for what?
For what? Yeah.
Yeah. Are you in a shooting? Is there a multi-vehicle accident? Do we have a heart attack? Do you need a bus called? What's the situation here? So he just says, I need backup.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you have said in real life? If you saw two race cars, what would be the voice report? I'm curious.
I would say I just clocked two cars going at 195 past me, southwest down route, whatever, in this direction.
And
I need backup.
You say I need backup.
No, look, there's no way that guy, I don't care what he's riding, a motorcycle, police car, whatever, is going to catch them. No, so you're probably radioing to the next precinct over saying they're coming in your direction. So get ready.
And there's no payoff for it either.
None.
I was expecting, having not seen this in 17 years, I really thought the race ended when they got out of the car and they were surrounded by cop cars.
Mm-hmm.
And then instead the scene just cuts away and
to the next
we get
race.
A reference that they were fined.
They were fined $25,000. That's it. They got to do all that damage. They actually caused city damage.
Yeah.
Bus stops were broken. Yep. Newsstands were torn apart. A girl was sexually assaulted by the wind. I mean, everything.
Manhole covers off.
Yeah, manhole covers were. That's right. They couldn't find a hole, so they made a hole. I mean,
but we get some classic Rocky inspired dialogue from Joe Tanto here, giving his advice to the young Jimmy Bly.
You got to drop this line in. Ryan.
I've got for us, so we can speak to it. I'll read it right now.
Hold on. This is going to make me cringe because this might have been the worst of the worst.
Okay, so this is the faith one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I hate this one.
I got will and I got faith. Sorry. I got will and I got faith. I believe you can will yourself in anything and do anything. And faith, that is like believing in something. Really? No duh. Sorry. Water, it's like wet, okay? And faith, that is like believing in something. Man, that's like having a good disease.
That's contagious.
It's contagious. If you hang around with people who have it, you're going to catch it, and it's going to change your attitude. What did I just read?
Like he writes these speeches for Rocky, and the speeches for Rocky are memorable. Like this one, I'm listening to this, and I'm like, you hear a speech like this, you want to get up and you want to go conquer the world, but this does nothing for me. Nothing.
I got will and I got faith. And if you have AIDS, other people have AIDS too. It's contagious.
I don't get it. I don't understand. What are you trying to say? What message is that trying to say? What?
I don't know. I don't know, because it goes from faith to attitude at the end. So I don't know.
He was basically saying, believe in yourself. And when you believe in yourself, you can do anything.
Well, why didn't he just say that? Why?
Because he had to take he had to do 200 laps to get there.
But it's a good disease.
Listen,
is there any good diseases? Are there good diseases?
If the rest of Stallone's movies that we haven't covered yet are like this, I'm done. I'm out.
Guys, it could be much worse. We could be sitting here talking about avenging Angelo.
Are we going to get to that? Is that going to be one of ours? It's got to be, right?
Yeah, I guess so. I've already reviewed it for my show, but to be fair, Craig's already reviewed things for his show that he's done twice.
I haven't.
I know. It's a painful movie, but again, I'd rather watch Avenging Angelo than this one. I'll be honest with you right now.
I'll tell you right now, if that ever gets nominated, I will personally fly to New Jersey or Canada to personally come and slap you dual style.
It's gonna be thrown
subjecting me to that nonsense.
That should be our swan song. That should be like the last one.
I actually ran this, but then I ran this.
The 1-2 punch of Party at Kitty and Studs.
That's right. The last
Angelo.
That's right. The last episode of our crossover podcast will be Party at Kitty and Studs. I think it's the only way to end this show. This program will be Party at Kitty and Studs. Talk about making holes. Okay, so
so we're at a new here. Oh, the race in the rain.
Yeah, that's right. So they're in Germany. I remember it was Germany, and they kept talking about the weather. I wonder if that was a foreshadow.
But they
had the rain tires too. So
yeah, naturally. But Joe gets benched for Memo. Memo's back.
That's right. So Memo's in. Joe gets benched. And I'm going to actually ask this question now in case I forget. So Joe, spoiler alert, he gets third place overall the last championship race because it's done by points. And I'm confused.
He spun across the finish line?
Yeah, but I'm confused how. Yeah, so he got third overall for the year, for the season, but he didn't race the whole season. How did he get third place overall?
Beats me.
Because Jimmy, spoiler, wins wins the championship year, but he didn't win every race. The reason why he won is because, he won the last race, but he got the most points throughout the season.
Yeah, I didn't know.
How in the world did Joe get... Yeah, so how did Joe get enough points to be third overall?
Yeah, the whole ranking system seemed weird.
Okay, so I wasn't just lost. It wasn't just me.
No, I didn't even realize that, to be honest. So
it was done by a point system. It's almost like like any basketball season or baseball season. You have some good games, some bad, but overall you're gonna have the most points at the end. You win, but some races are worth more than others points, right? So it's best to win the final race, but you can, I guess, still be first place if you get second, but you're first place everywhere else, but you still got first place overall because of your point system.
Yeah, I mean, because going into that final race, and we have another race to talk about first, but Jimmy didn't even qualify, or he qualified, he tied for 10th, but if he won, he was going to win the whole season.
Is it like the what do you call it, the snitch, and what do you call that Harry Potter game? The
Quidditch?
The Quidditch. If you catch that flying ball, you win automatically almost.
I would have been pretty angry if I was Bo.
Well, he got the girl at the end. Okay, so let's talk about the big crash. Basically, we'll just talk about the main event for this race in Germany was Memo was driving, and he crashes. I wish we could put the imagery up in this. If I had enough time or ability to show the video, his crash that he has was and it was incredible. It was like
legendary.
World War III explosion, and he's lucky just to walk out with just he basically turned into another. We got another guy in a wheelchair. If Driven had a sequel, we'd have two guys in a wheelchair rolling around.
So here's the thing that doesn't make sense to me. Memo is like the nicest guy in the world,
right?
And Memo and Joe basically work on this team to enhance Jimmy.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe because of Kathy's influence, Memo decides he's going for the win.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't know. I know. I lost track of trying to keep who's playing for who's on whose team, who is representing what cause. So yeah, Memo decides I'm going to win this thing, yay! And then he crashes, the fire crash. So he goes into the ocean or this lake.
No, you have to talk about him launching like a missile through the air.
Oh yeah, and it goes through the trees. Like the same projectile car on fire goes into the trees, lands in the lake. Then Jimmy, being a true hero, he spins off the track. He goes backwards, and then he drives and jumps out of his car and does a heroic save. But it's not enough. He's not strong enough to lift the car out of the water to get his drowning friend out of the water. And so Bo's like, "Well, damn it, I gotta help too." And so
Sophia tells him to go help.
Oh, that's right. You're right. Sorry, but he did it. He did it. And then they lift the car off him to pull him out, and then the car explodes again because of the leaking endless fuel that seems to be spilling out of this car.
I like how the announcers don't even reference the driver's name at that point. They're like, they better get that driver out of there. It's like the announcers couldn't even be bothered to remember Memo's name at that point.
That's because they didn't get the memo.
Nicely done, Dad.
I wear my dad badge proud. So this explosion happens, and keep this explosion in mind. Do you guys remember how big that explosion was?
It was huge.
It was like out of a Michael Bay movie.
Yes.
Yep.
It's like Michael Bay was on set for a day visiting his Rennie Harlan friend and said, "Hey, you want to make this explosion big? Okay, let's do it." So they're now in the hospital. Memo's on the bed. He's alive. Thank goodness. Just a couple little burn marks, but he's paralyzed from the waist down, I think. But what's crazy is there's a scene after they all give their condolences to Memo, and Joe is now looking at the car wreck. Did you guys see that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, how's that car even in any kind of piece?
Yeah. After the explosion,
that explosion would have torn it to paper shreds.
Right.
We still had paint on this thing. That was a nuclear explosion. But yet they still somehow salvaged this thing. And where was this? Why was it so close to the hospital? Why was
you're trying to make sense out of this? I don't know why.
But I love how they brought in this burning vessel of a car to the hospital garage. After we're done working on the driver, let's see if we can fix the car. What?
And did either one of you guys notice the glaring continuity error where at the start of the next race they show Jimmy, Joe, and Bo walking, and the announcer calls all three of them heroes for going to save Memo. Yeah, Joe wasn't involved in that rescue at all.
Yeah.
No, he got there when they were already out. He just looked really good in the rain, looking forlorn.
Let's not skip over the part where Carl is going to fire Jimmy and try to sign Bo to his team. So now at this point, now Carl's the asshole. He's the bad guy, right?
Right. Yeah,
which is another thing that's glossed over and never addressed again.
Carl has the Ricky Bobby philosophy where if you're not first, you're last.
Mm-hmm.
Because apparently Jimmy finishing second on the season would be a complete and utter failure. So he's got to completely wash this kid out.
It's remarkable.
And that's when we'll get to the scene where I have it right in here. Burt Reynolds' big Oscar speech scene.
Terrible. This was awful.
So, and the nominees are Burt Reynolds for Driven. And then I'm going to cue some Oscar music here, and then I'm going to put in this speech because this is the clip they would have shown there was probably a part of Burt's little brain there where he thought that he was given some sort of performance here that may just sneak into a performance worthy of an Academy Award. It felt like that.
We weren't that many years removed from Boogie Nights, which he got nominated for.
So he's probably feeling pretty high here about his acting career. But shall I remind my listeners, those who do listen to my show, that this is the same Burt who posed nude on a bear.
Yeah, you can't mention that enough.
Did we lose?
I think we might have lost Ryan. My note, you there, Ryan?
Here.
Oh,
I'm here.
Okay. My note here, yeah, we can hear you. My note here about Burt Reynolds in this very scene is Burt Reynolds is a monster, but somehow he sucks here.
Yeah, it was horrible. It was almost like, hey, look, I'm an actor acting.
But dude, he can act his ass off, and this is the best that Rennie Harlan can get out of him.
Nah,
I don't think Rennie cared. I really don't think Rennie cared. And if the director doesn't care, the actor's not going to care unless they're like the guy that makes all those Paul Thomas Anderson movies that's retired now, that played Abe Lincoln.
Daniel Day-Lewis?
Yeah, Daniel Day-Lewis.
I was thinking Paul T. Anderson or whoever makes those Resident Evil movies. Or
P.T. Anderson, yes.
P.T. Anderson, yeah. Let's skip to let's get to the final race here, because we're already at an hour and a half mark, and my wife's going to kill me soon. I love there's a sequence here before the final race where all the racers are saying goodbye to their families and packing pictures into their clothes, family photos into their clothes, like they're going to war.
Oh, my goodness. And you know that when Sly wrote this and when Rennie shot it and whoever edited it, they thought they were doing something that was going to make people in the theater have an emotional moment.
There was some real racers did cameos for this.
Yeah, that was them. And that was them in these scenes.
And I read that was their real pre-race rituals.
Okay, sure, maybe a ritual, but they were but the way it was edited, like Craig said, the way it was edited and scored with this new agey song. It felt like we're watching like the remember the
Survivor.
Remember the end of Gladiator, which came out a year before this. Think about this for a second. Gladiator came out in 2000. Directed by Ridley Scott, starring Russell Crowe. One of the best movies ever made. I freaking love the music, the acting, the story.
The CGI.
The CGI, even in 2000, was just so much better than this pile of garbage. And this came out a year before Driven, right? So in theory, like the technology was a year behind. And there's a sequence there at the end where he's going to his family. You know the scene where he's going to his family in the afterlife?
Yeah.
That is editing. That is music. That is acting where you feel the power, the love for family. Then you skip to Driven.
You can't compare 2001 Rennie Harlan to 2000 era Ridley Scott, who was at the peak of his powers in terms of his ability as a director.
But that's what's actually really amazing, though, is that to make a movie is a talent. It's like you can say that I like to play basketball, but then if I'm dribbling the ball, see guys, look, I like to play. I can make a couple hoops, and then LeBron James comes over to me and says, "Well, I like to play too," and then I'm just destroyed. Like there's still the same activity. There's a movie being made here, but there's just two different levels of results.
Yeah, well, the problem is that a director is supposed to have every answer, even if they don't know the right answer. And I feel like the further along Rennie Harlan got in his career, the less he cared about having any answer to any question and was more focused on photographing midriffs and butts and explosions and couldn't be bothered with a lot of the important aspects of filmmaking. Quality. And again, I mean, this is the guy that made Cliffhanger, so
it's crazy.
We know when he's focused and driven that he can turn in.
That's what you did there.
He can turn in a quality movie, but again, I'm not sure who you ultimately put the blame on for how a lot of people feel about this movie. And
Stallone.
I hate to say it, but it does have to be Stallone and his 25 drafts.
I don't think you can outact or outdirect an awful script.
No. And we've talked about this before where Stallone, I know he never listens to our show anyways. I'm not ragging on him in case he is. This isn't what I'm doing here, but because we know what he can do. we know what he's capable of. And this goes so, and I know he has already stated for the record that this is one of a few films, and a few of them we've already covered, one of them being Stop or My Mom Will Shoot, that he wishes he never done. He makes no bones about it. He wishes he never made this film. He wishes that us three, were not talking about this film. He wished it didn't exist, and yet here it is, right? So what I'm getting at is we know that he can write Rocky, that he wrote Creed 2, that he can write this stuff, you know. He did the screenplay for Cliffhanger as well. So it's weird when any kind of artist or actor doesn't, whatever that zeitgeist is that they tap into to create these masterpieces, it's almost sad. It's not their fault. I guess it's almost just being human. Like there's only so much gold in every mine. I don't know.
Well, yeah, but also it speaks to the collaborative nature of filmmaking. And for, let's say, a Creed, he had a Ryan Coogler, who is probably one of the most talented young filmmakers working today.
Yeah.
And it takes a village to make a movie. Mm-hmm. And, you know, if Stallone isn't 100% invested in something, it's probably really hard to get everybody else invested. And I think the one thing I will say is one of the things I love about all of our individual podcasts is we're all huge Stallone fans.
Absolutely.
But that doesn't mean that you just go into complete hero worship mode. A true fan of anything should be able to objectively look at the thing that they like and acknowledge when it's crap.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, did you have any? I mean, we already kind of talked about it. So they have the race, the final race. First place was Jimmy. Second place was Bo. Third place was Joe.
And they started from the rear of the pack, and they tag teamed it. Mm-hmm. And I think, and they didn't really illustrate this too much, but there was that moment where they're like at the diner or a restaurant, and Jimmy's like explaining like a passing move to Joe.
Yes.
And I think he does that in the final race, right?
I think we're led to believe that little move he does was the one that he demonstrated at the restaurant table there. Yes. Yeah.
I totally forgot about that.
I love how like annoyed Ryan seems by all of that. Like Ryan's like, I can't believe I'm even acknowledging this nonsense.
It's like what a callback to a great moment in the movie.
Well, there is a callback here that I actually did enjoy. The humming.
Oh, and Jimmy starts to hum, right?
Yes. The humming has caught on to other racers.
Still don't know what it means, but oh wait, what does it mean? He's close to the edge.
He's on the edge.
He's close to the edge.
Yeah.
I love how the humming is nonsensical. It's a nonsensical tune. It's just like your 4-year-old kid who's being annoying at the dinner table when you're telling him to be quiet. Mm-hmm.
So the race ends. They all come like within a split second of one another,
except for Joe spinning there at the end there. But yeah.
Oh, this is the one where Joe spins.
It's like a photo finish. If I was Bo, I'd be like, really?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, he really got boned on that.
I found that there was a race in 1997, a kart race, where the first 3 cars finished within 0.055 seconds of each other. 3 cars.
Insane. That's insane.
So it does happen? I don't know.
Oh yeah, no, it's called a photo finish, Doug.
So, is that what it's called?
Yes, they have to use a photograph to see who came over first.
See, but for me, like that shows another sort of. Wouldn't it? I guess it's akin to like Rocky beating Apollo up in beating the count in Rocky 2. It didn't show Jimmy having any other like really kind of dominance other than he came from all the way back to win the race. But when you win by like a nose, how definitive of a win is that? Like,
but he also got help from Joe. Remember, there's that blocking. There's that. Yeah, Joe jumped over the racetrack. I don't know if that's legal. I don't know. Sure, he won. Congratulations, Jimmy.
But the moral of the story is Jimmy wins, but everybody's friends in the end.
Yeah, they're all friends. Everyone's getting along. I think Gina Gershon's character, Kathy, I think she's trying to find a way out of this relationship. I think she's scheming in her mind to get away from this paraplegic guy.
But the other thing is we have Carl ends up in the middle of the racetrack in his wheelchair, How he got there, I have no idea. Nobody wheeled him there, right? So and he says something like to Joe, like, if you had done things a little differently, you could have won. And he goes, "What do you mean? I did win."
Oh, I totally missed that part. Wow. I think at this point I was just waiting for it to end.
Mm-hmm.
So good. Yeah. Thank you, Craig, for catching that. Yes. That sounds like a very Rock yes when, I didn't win the match, but I went my personal distance. I did what I was supposed to do as a character. Oh.
And then, unlike a lot of Hollywood movies, this movie just ends. Mm-hmm. We don't have a prolonged post, race in the garage or in the locker room scene. We just see them celebrating, and that's it.
Yeah, there's
we don't get the reporter turning in her story or Memo in physical therapy, like learning how to walk again.
Oh, he's 1 year later, she's left him. I give it 6 months. She's out of the house.
But again, Carl was about to sell out his racer,
right,
and fire him. But there's no payoff to that either. He just wheels away and goes on with his life.
And even the brother is like, that's my brother. I love him after all. It's just this life doesn't exist. This kind of behavior doesn't exist. This didn't. I think that's what I had a hard time. I didn't relate to anybody. I didn't like anybody. I didn't understand anybody, their motives, their emotions, the way they reacted, which reminds me again of The Room. Have you guys seen that movie?
I've never seen it.
No.
Okay, so maybe my analogy, for those who have seen the movie The Room, will totally know what I'm talking about if they have too seen this movie Driven. Maybe your guys' challenge is to go watch The Room, and then you'll be like, oh my gosh, Ryan's right. Because
I want to see it because I heard great things about it.
Because the motivation of the characters, why they're saying what they're saying, that's swimming. Is that swimming? That's weird. Oh, what are you thinking about? It's like that is the cadence of The Room. That's the way they speak. And you're like, who are these people? Why are they even existing together? That is Driven. It is Sylvester Stallone's The Room.
Disaster artist about this movie.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
We should do it.
Disaster. So I got to ask you, Ryan.
Right.
You hadn't seen this movie in what?
18 years.
In next month, it'll be 18 years.
Yeah.
And you just watched it for this podcast. Do you imagine a time that you'll ever watch this movie again?
Never. If I've gone 18 years, I could easily go another 20 and never give it a second. Life is, as I get older, because I'm not even, when I watched this 18 years ago, I was 25, 26. I was young. I'm 43 now. My life is getting shorter, and I'm not going to waste any more time watching this. I've talked about it for almost 2 hours, and I watched it for 2 hours. That's 4 hours of my life.
You still have to edit the audio only version of this.
That's going to take me, I kid you not, guys, this editing will probably take me 6 hours.
We love you for it, Ryan. Doug,
yeah.
You hadn't seen this movie. Did it surpass or shatter your expectations?
It surpassed my expectations.
Wow.
Actually, I had no expectations. Like I said, I knew it existed, but I was never interested in racing at all, race car movies. So I didn't really have any expectations, and just like every scene after scene, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that this is the shit that they went with. Like, what hit the cutting room floor if this is what actually made the final cut?
Our challenge to you again, Matt, is to find that 4-hour cut.
I have to dig out the DVD and watch the 51 minutes worth of deleted scenes.
I guess there's at least an hour of deleted scenes there. So there is an hour's worth. Yeah.
Yeah. I just couldn't find it's funny because I thought last month when we watched Grudge Match, I had seen the DVD for Driven, and I couldn't locate it prior to recording. So I had to watch it through that other means that we talked about. I got to say this, and
look, I'll say for the record, I watched it illegally. Come and get me, coppers.
FBI's gonna
no, I gotta say this, and I said it at the beginning of the episode. The worst thing a movie can do is not keep your attention, and as much as I have problems with this movie from a storytelling and a filmmaking aspect, this movie never lost my attention. And when a movie can hold your interest for its running time, it did something right.
I would watch an entire train wreck from beginning to end too. That would hold my interest. Just seeing the train crash. Yeah, that's similar. I would say, yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
I driven on Amazon to see if that. Oh, there it is. Sorry, I'm just seeing what kind of version they have on Amazon.
Mm-hmm. That's the version that I watched.
Yeah, I wasn't able to watch it. I couldn't even.
Yeah, they have their own like Netflix style.
Oh yeah, stream anytime.
IMDb free dive or whatever.
Yeah, that's exactly what I saw it on.
Okay, so let's see what the extras are here. I can't find it.
Anyways, I think it's got commentary by Rennie Harlan.
It would almost be interesting. It would almost be interesting.
That's a good call. I'm not going to put myself through that again. No.
Well, guys, it's been a pleasure.
As always.
As always. I love talking to you guys. And I have a question for you. You don't have to answer it now, but actually I'll talk to you after about it. So when we stop the broadcast, just don't hang up. Okay. I'll talk to you guys real quick. So anyways, I'm Ryan from the Rocky series, Going the Distance, or Going the Distance, the Rocky series podcast. You can find us in every podcast app, on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, just by going Rocky series podcast, Going the Distance. You'll find me, pictures, and all our videos, live videos, this video, previous videos. And if you're listening to this, go to our YouTube page, the Stallone Podcast Network. That's on YouTube. It's like the third thing that comes up. If you put Stallone Podcast, we're like the third thing that comes up. So put down Stallone Podcast on YouTube. You'll find our channel. Subscribe to it, and you'll get live notifications and watch our previous 6 movies that we've done. This is our 7th movie, so we're getting there. We're gonna build up a library, guys.
Wow. We're gonna catch up to SlyCast pretty soon.
Don't tell Jeff Berry that. I think he's starting to get pissed.
Oh, that's funny. Why do you guys close off yourselves?
No, again, we're SlyCast, and we're chronologically working our way through Sly's filmography. The next chronological film we're doing is Judge Dredd, and it's a lot of fun. But I know we've talked about this before. Podcasting's a lot of work, man, and I commend you, Ryan, and you, Doug, for consistently putting out product. I've been there. I've done it, and it's hard work, and it's truly inspiring to see that you guys are consistently putting out content while I sit on the couch and play with my dogs.
Yeah, our wives love us for it, don't they, Doug?
Oh man, it's getting tougher and tougher now that I'm on my night shift. 4 out of my 8 nights in a row are dedicated to work, and now I'm podcasting another one of them. She's, it's getting tougher, but I have a duty. I have a responsibility here to my fans, the fans of Rocky Minute, my podcast, where we cover the Rocky movies 1 minute at a time. When I say 1 minute at a time, we're wrapping up Rocky 2, which we're doing 118 episodes of. We did 118 episodes of Rocky 1 because we're analyzing 1 minute of movie time at a time. So that's 236 episodes for you to catch up on of Rocky Minute, at your leisure before we get ready to start releasing episodes for Rocky 3. So we got a long ways to go, but we're having fun doing it. Just like Ryan, you Google Rocky Minute and all of our social media stuff will pop up.
I can't wait to be a part of Rocky, the Rocky 3 Minute. I've thoroughly enjoyed my participation in Rocky 1 and Rocky 2. And again, I welcome whatever minutes you want to throw my way.
All right. I don't think there's many slog minutes like, the coma from Rocky 2.
Rocky 3 is great, man.
It's pretty lean and mean.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. All right, guys. Thanks to everyone who's going to watch this video on our respective channels and listen to us on our respective iTunes channels. We'll talk to everyone later.
Bye.